Hey, it's Wes. I want to welcome you back to the channel, and this is going to be to be honest, this is actually kind of a bit of a journal from myself on what being free to play has looked like for me personally. I want to mention your mileage will vary. And of course, we've got our chart that I have found at scientificfacts.ivemadeup.com. So we all know that this is 100% verified. And I want to talk about what is it like to be a free to play player. And first and foremost, if you're new to the channel, give a like, give a subscribe. This is the kind of content that I'm mostly going to be focusing on, helping people get to that mythic tier play level, because in all honesty, it's a big goal for a lot of people, especially if you're new to the game. So let's jump right in. This side of the graph, of course, the left-hand side is about quality. If you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself, if you've got more cards, you can build different decks, you've got a better quality of game. Winning, of course, becomes a little easier if you've got a higher tier deck, and of course, accomplishment. All those things really kind of go in together, and I call them all of quality of life. They all play hand in hand well with one another. One other thing to point out about winning, though, is this. Winning in this game, you have to remember there's a rock, paper, scissors aspect to this game. So, if your primary goal is to win, keep that in mind. You won't always win every game. Your deck can't beat everything. It is what it is. So first and foremost, before I jump into anything, I want to talk about what to spend your gems and gold on. Your gold you spend on drafting. You can either do the 5,000 or 10,000 entry draft. The 5,000 draft, what it does for you is it costs less, but you actually can earn less as well. So it costs less, but you earn less. The 10,000 or the premier draft, that one there, you get the same number of cards and everything, but it costs more, but your gems and your rewards afterward are higher yet. So it's a risk reward system on both. One of them, lower cost. If you're not very good at drafting, or if you've never have done drafting, start with it, because you're not putting as much investment in it. That way you kind of get used to it. I would also recommend looking at things like MTG Arena Assistant to help with drafting. And then the other thing is you also have the more expensive one. Whenever you get a little bit more used to drafting, give it a try. There's no harm in giving it a shot. And to be honest, my best drafts have actually always been in the more expensive one. Those are usually just where I do better for whatever reason. A lot of it comes down to card draw. So first and foremost, where to spend your gems and gold? Your gold you spend on drafts. Gems, though, you save it up for your mystery pass. If you have never purchased the mystery pass before, or mastery pass, I'm sorry. If you've never purchased it before, try to save up toward the end of the cycle, all of the gems that you're earning from drafting. Try to save up to the end of the cycle. That way, whenever you pop that mastery, you get to see everything all at once. So you realize the value you're getting out of it. And that's really some great advice right there, because whenever you first pop that mastery, it's going to really show you everything that you're getting right away if you already built up a lot that's already unlocked. So now let's talk about time. And mileage will vary. I've got these broken up into 4 categories. For me personally, this is roughly about a 3 to 4 month time frame. And the reason why I say mileage will vary, it all comes down to how much you're playing. Anybody can make Mythic in this game as long as they've got the time to grind. I personally don't. I don't have the time every month to be able to grind all the way up to Mythic. And a lot of people, to be honest, don't see it as their personal goal. There's a lot of people who just want to get to Platinum or to Diamond, because in all honesty, the difference between Diamond and Mythic tier is one less pack at the end of the month. That's it. So first things first. This is basically day one stuff, and this is where you're going to be starting out in the first month. Your color challenge, and like I said, mileage will vary. Your color challenge is helping you pick your first deck and or decks. And what I mean by that is this. You're going to play with these different decks. You're going to get ideas of how the various colors work, how they work with one another, how they complement each other, and you're going to get an idea of exactly where to start at. Secondly, you really do want to pick one first deck. And what I do recommend doing is going to a place like Ether Hub or somewhere like that and finding a top tier deck to build to. Then what you need to do is you need to look at what cards you already have, and you also need to look at the type of things that you have available to you already. And if you have a specific Mythic or anything of that nature is a very, very powerful card, that might be something you want to consider building toward. So first and foremost, you're picking your first deck. You're looking at what is meta, because that really goes far into helping you climb quicker. So month 2, your second first deck. As you go through and you begin to do drafts, you are actually taking the time and learning the game And secondly, you're also getting a lot more of your wild cards where you can craft uncommons, commons, rares, and mythics. And you're beginning to get to where you're actually building a very good deck for the levels that you're playing at. And that's really kind of the best way to describe it. Your second first deck. The deck that you start in month one is not going to be the deck you're using by this point. Hopefully, at this point, your deck has evolved and changed. Maybe you even had to change your mind on the type of playstyle you enjoy. The meta definitely hurts people a lot because sometimes whenever the meta shifts, you can go from a very, very heavy aggro to a very, very heavy control or anti-creature. And a lot of those things impact you as well because you've only got one primary deck. So you want something that's good into a lot of different options. My white deck that is a pure aggro life gain deck, in all honesty, things like Dimir Rogues, I destroy it. Things like Yorion, though, I can get him down to 4 or 5 life, and I can't get that last little bit of life damage through to him. So it's just one of those things. So month number 3, your deck tier increases, and you also have got to look at your realistic expectations. Oh, by the way, goals at this point in month 2, you really need to be looking at mostly getting into maybe gold, maybe low plat. That's a good goal because to climb into that, you have to be better than 50% win rate. And the higher you climb, the harder the decks that you encounter all the time. So if you can get into gold at this point, don't beat yourself up if you're in silver, but realize that you should be trying to push for at least gold, just because it's one of those things where once you get into gold, you can't bottom out of it, you can't go back to silver. So if you can grind and play enough, you should be able to at least get to that point. So deck tier increases in month 3 and realistic expectations. The example I love using for what I mean by deck tier increases is this. There's a red card called Bombard. It's a very, very common red card. It does, for 3 mana, 4 damage to a target creature. There's another one that's also, I believe, called Soul Seer, and it has the exact same cost, but it does 5 damage, and if I remember right, it has an added effect to it, like removes indestructible or something to that effect. And I think it can also target planeswalkers. So what I mean by deck tier increasing is as you're fine-tuning and getting your deck closer and closer to the next level, you're basically at this point actually fine-tuning, and you're taking cards that are subpar and you're replacing them with cards that are actually superior. And so that's exactly what you're doing at this point. You're actually tinkering to such a level where you're actually finding, hey, this card over here does the exact same thing. It's a rare instead of an uncommon, so it only cost me 2 mana instead of 3 or 4. And so I think you kind of get the idea of what that means. Realistic expectations at this point, it all comes down once again to how much you're willing to play. If you're playing at least your dailies, you should at least be beyond gold, into plat, possibly breaking into diamond. And if you do play a lot, possibly into mythic at this point. So that brings us to the final marker, and that is month 4. I'm going to call it month 4. It may not really work out that way for you. As I said, mileage will vary. Month 4, and I left out the L. Are you really free to play? What do I mean by that? At month 4, you will have popped so many packs open doing drafts. You will have popped and gotten so many wild cards, rare, mythic, and otherwise. You will have gotten so many cards from packs that you're getting from in the game by getting the rewards. And you're also going to have so many different other things that are adding in, such as like the mystery pass. You're going to have so many things coming together that it's going to actually begin to look like you are no longer free to play, but instead that you've been playing for quite some time and have built up your deck. That's the secret to this game. That's the secret. It's all about sticking in the game, playing it for the long term, because the longer you play, the more cards you have available. The more cards you have available, the more deck options you have. And more importantly, the more fun you can have. For instance, I love to tinker. I love to tinker on decks, but is tinkering what's going to win me into Mythic tier? It may. I may be that lucky guy that all of a sudden discovers a certain combo. But the truth is, it's a big wide world. Why reinvent the wheel? At the same time, though, whenever I do tinker, I'm playing with decks that really, to be quite honest, are subpar. To a person who's brand new, though, my subpar decks will carry you from bronze, silver, and gold, possibly into platinum, but probably not a whole lot further. So you've got to realize my junk decks at this point are a lot like the first deck from step 2, where basically they're not necessarily perfect decks, but if I actually put a lot of effort into them, they could be. And so that's one of those things. I just wanted to put this video together real quick. That way we kind of talk about what it is and isn't in this game, what it means to really be free to play. Most importantly, if you really want to be Mythic, play the game. You will get there in time. It just takes time. I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you all have a great weekend.